Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, and yourself?
I'm really good. Nice to meet you.
You too? Seems that everything's working okay. Can you hear me alright? Is my volume okay?
Yes, it's okay. Can you hear me
Yep.
well?
Yep.
Sorry for my English. I am from Latin America, from Venezuela.
It's fine, I understand you fine.
All right, perfect. This interview is for a emerging website for for guitar players and musicians in general. It's,
Yep.
it has 1 month that has been released, and we are
Okay.
contacting you most for your work in Young Track Central as a transcriber, and
Okay.
you have released so much material like your country books,
Yeah.
and we want to know a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
Do you check the document with the question that I sent you through
Yeah, I've
Facebook?
got the questions here in front of me.
hmm Can you give us a little introduction about yourself for those who doesn't are really familiar with your work?
Sure. So, I'm Levi Clay. I wanted to say that I'm a guitar player, but I'm probably more known for my transcribing. I've been a professional transcriber for about 9 years now, transcribing for various magazines, um, Jam Track Central, people's websites, lots and lots of websites. Too many websites to even keep track of. Um, yeah, just constantly working with people doing transcriptions. That's been a huge part of what I've done. I was Lick Library's in-house transcriber for 5 years, so I did all of their DVDs for 5 years. I've released 14 DVDs, I think, with Lick Library. Um, I've been a teacher for many years, of course. I now have 4 books out as well.
Yes,
So
you
doing
talk
lots
about
of
country
that.
guitars.
Yeah, a lot of stuff on country guitar, just because there's quite a big gap in the market there. I
Yes,
do have some of my own albums out though, Out of the
out
Ashes
of the
into the
ashes
Whiskey.
into the
Yeah,
whiskey and Hellcat Molly.
Hellcat Molly's the name of my band.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Do you release those
um,
albums in 2015, right?
yeah,
Per-
yeah, and those are both heavy metal albums because I grew up on the metal thing, and yeah, anybody that follows me knows that I'm into quite a lot of genres of music. Outside of all those things, I'm now doing more and more work on YouTube. I'm trying to upload sort of 3 or 4 videos a week. It's been quiet this last month or so because I've had a lot of other things on. But that does keep me pretty busy. I'm picking up viewers there, and because of that, I've got a Patreon page which brings in a bit of money, so that's all good. So yeah, that's me. I sit at home and I make stuff for people. It's a crazy job.
That is a nice introduction. After hearing all the things that you say, it's obvious that you have a real interest in the educational part of music. How do you become so interested in that part? Because music education has a bad reputation in the past, with the statement that those who can play aren't good teachers, and those who are good teachers aren't good players.
So I have said similar things to that. Well, I've kind of defended that as a position, sort of, because I have come across people that absolutely cannot play, and they try to pretend that they can teach, and I just don't see how that's possible. Because if you are a good teacher, if you can teach people how to play music, then you must, by definition, have learned how to play music yourself. Otherwise, how can you possibly promise that your methods will work if you've not even been able to fix issues in your own playing? But of course, we do know that just because someone is a good player, it doesn't mean that they're a good teacher. I was primarily, I don't like the phrase self-taught, because I didn't lock myself in a room and imagine music and work out how to play it. I listened to records and I watched instructional videos and I read a lot of books. So those were all kind of my teachers. I learned what they taught me. But yeah, back in the day, that's kind of what things were. Education, you had the old REH videos and the Hot Licks videos, and they're all great resources for learning. But generally speaking, those are products made by great players, and a lot of them weren't great teachers. Danny Gatton, one of my favourite players of all time, wasn't a great teacher. Scotty Anderson, not the best teacher. Again, one of my favourite players, but not the best teacher. Um, so yeah, I have a very analytical mind, and that's why I have such a big library of books, and I'm always reading. So I love to read and I love to learn and understand things at a fundamental level, really get into the nitty-gritties of understanding things, because that was my kind of way of knowing that I was progressing. Have I learned something new today? If I've not learned something new yet, I need to go and study something, I need to go and learn something. And as time went by, that kind of analytical aspect of me, one of my teachers in school picked up the fact that I was a good guitar player and I knew my stuff. So she asked me if I'd teach her sons, and I said, yeah, sure, that would be cool. And she said, I'll pay you, of course. And at that point I went, you can make money doing this as well. That's cool. Because prior to that, I'd shown people a lot of music. I taught, shown some friends how to do some things. But then I realised, okay, it's a pretty reasonable business as well. So that was about the age of 15, I think. And yeah, I've been teaching ever since. And, I didn't mention I went to the University of East London and did performance and education. One of the main things I took from that was often being sat in a classroom with teachers that was teaching things that I knew, but that was okay because obviously I was there to learn, but a huge part of learning was also just watching them teach, observing how they dealt with a classroom. So my passion from education came from just wanting to make education a better place. It's like the Wild West out there, really. There are a lot of guys out there that sell a lot of products that I don't think are that great, and they're selling them, of course, to a market of people that are trying to learn. And obviously, if you're trying to learn, that means you're in a position where you don't know what's good. You're just trying to learn. You can't possibly say this isn't good until you buy it, and then years down the line can look back and go, that wasn't good.
Yes.
So yeah, just trying to raise the standard of the community and make all of us better teachers, because yeah, teaching is good. Be passionate about it and spread the love.
In your learning process, when you were a student, do you find yourselves in a point when you get stuck, similar kind of like Troy Grady, that he explained here in his videos, that he wasn't find a way to play guitar clean? Do you have similarity issues in that?
Yeah, and I guess in that respect, it's not that I'm going to give a different answer to Troy Grady. I had a different result, I would say. So I did come up against technical barriers and frustrations in my playing, and my mantra was always, eventually it became not to frustrate myself with the things that I was terrible at. I've never been a great alternate picker. I did study with some great teachers and got my picking pretty good, but I found that I had to practice it for 4 hours a day just to keep it at a level.
Clean.
That's without even getting much better at it. I was very fast and accurate, but still a lot of time to be able to dedicate to it. And I eventually had this realization that, there are other aspects of my playing that I am very good at, things that come very naturally to me.
Such as your oral skills.
Exactly, yeah. So I was going to say like hybrid picking, or the way that I integrate legato and picking together to create a sound, and then go on to say, but obviously my ear was working really well. So I spent more time focusing on the thing that was very strong, the unique selling point, rather than looking at my playing and saying, I could be a better picker. You know what? Everybody could say that to me. Levi, you could be a better picker. And that is absolutely true. But even if I was 10 times a better picker than I am right now, it would never get used. Like there's no context where I'd need my technique, my picking technique, to be better in that. So when I came up against hurdles, it was very much a case of asking myself, is this a hurdle that I genuinely need to overcome? Or is this a hurdle that I feel that I should overcome just because I like overcoming hurdles? There's so many aspects of music for us to learn, and guitar players, we're the worst for it actually. Like, we're very good at ignoring our ears and focusing on technique, because technique's very easy to measure your progress. And I remember, little anecdote, I remember reading and working on Steve Vai's 10-hour guitar workout. Most of us have all had a look at that book. Yeah, exactly. We've all had a look at that, and most of us all did the same thing. We looked at the picking exercises, and I can still remember those all quite vividly. But there are sections in it where he's talking about, like, I remember there being G major 7 chord voicings and playing them in inversions up the neck. Now, when I was a kid, it's like, well, how is this interesting? How is this of use? And I couldn't see a use for it. And as guitar players, we often do that. We'll go, this stuff, I don't need to learn this. But actually, these are the fundamental things of communication with other musicians, playing in settings that aren't rock and stuff like that. So putting time into things that you might need, like reading, for me, being able to read was quite important. Chord knowledge was very good, important. My ear training was very important, much more so than all the stuff that Troy Grady talks about. Troy Grady is the biggest lifesaver in the world, because now Troy exists. When people ask me about picking in lessons, I'll just say, I don't need to say anything about picking. Troy Grady's over there.
Troy Grady,
he's got that stuff. He's got that on lockdown.
He makes a deep research about picking technique, about stuff that wasn't even clear 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah. And the thing with that is, a lot of bitter people have come out in the last couple of years, all trying to make out like, oh, Troy Grady, he's not doing anything new. Everybody's known this stuff for years. I've known all about this. And it's like, well, why has nobody said it? I read every technique book. I had every technique teacher up until the age of like 25, and at no point did anybody ever talk about the angle on which Troy begins to either call downward pick slanting,
downward pick slanting, upward pick slanting,
yeah.
two-way pick slanting.
I never considered it. And sure, when I was working on my economy picking technique, yeah, I did that downward slanting for a descending and upward slanting for ascending, but it wasn't something that I'd really thought about. It was just something that happened.
It comes natural to you. It comes natural to you.
Yeah, exactly. For economy picking, there's no way around it. You kind of have to do it if you want it to work. But yeah, for alternate picking, it's just, fact is, no one talked about it. And anyone that wants to tell me they've known about this stuff for 20 years, show me the books that it's in. I've got libraries bigger than just about anybody on this. My library looks like a music shop. There's that many books in it. And nobody's talked about that kind of stuff. So hats off to Troy.
Yes.
In the interest of disclosure, though, I do work with Troy. I am his in-house transcriber now. So
you make some transcription for his material, I think.
Yeah, I do all of his stuff now. I think, well, I assume it's all of his stuff.
You are currently making transcription for Jam Track Central?
I've not done anything for Jam Track Central in a good few years now, to be honest. Very few. It's always been very few and far between with Jam Track Central, just because Adrian is their in-house transcriber. The only time I've done the odd little bit for Jam Track Central was always when, Adrian was overworked, or the way their business model works now is they bring in talented guitar players to release their own products, and a lot of those guitar players will provide their own transcriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And some write music and others don't write music out. So, for example, most of the Andy James stuff that goes on Jam Track Central, Andy has me do that.
Exodus, Exodus transcription for his album Exodus.
I didn't do that one. I did the one, his self-titled album that's on Jam Track Central, and I'm not sure of I think it's George that did the Exhibius. I'm sure that's the name of that album. I think it was George that did that. And he did the stuff at Andy's new website, but I've taken over on Andy's website now. I'm doing that again. I think George hasn't got the time to be doing it, so yes, I'm doing that.
Can you give us a brief insight of the process involved behind the development of your higher oral skills and the events that led you to become one of the top current transcribers?
Yeah, so transcription it's always been a necessity for me, because I was always into music that wasn't in books. When I was really into metal, I'm still really into metal. My favourite metal band of all time is Symphony X. Always will be. I've got Michael Romeo's signature there somewhere. Can't point. Yeah, Michael Romeo's signature comparison there, which I absolutely love. He's my favourite metal player of all time. And as everybody knows, there aren't any Symphony X tab books, so if I wanted to learn that stuff, I had to work it out. That's a good thing, though, like if you look back in the 70s,
there wasn't transcription books.
Tab books weren't a thing, so everybody that learned did it that way, and because they did it that way, they didn't have this horrible guitar player way of playing, which is you go on the internet, you find a bad tab, you put your fingers where you're told to put them, and you never really understand anything. You just copy. And back in the 70s, guys weren't like that. They had to learn everything by listening to it, and that works. Music and the playing of music is a language. It's a way to communicate, a way to express yourself. So when I'm talking to you now and I say it's a way to express yourself, you could repeat that because you heard me say it and you can hear it and copy it. You don't need me to write it down in order to copy the fact that I've said you can express yourself. And it's hard. Obviously, it's very hard when it starts that way, much like it is for a child trying to communicate. But when you start and just gradually develop that skill, it becomes easier and easier to hear something and be able to instantly replicate it on the instrument. And be under no illusion, every good player has that ability. Every average player has that ability, to be honest. If you're just playing with a pentatonic scale, you can generally play and sing what you're playing at the same time because you're so familiar with that scale and that pattern and the things that you're likely to play. You have a good connection. So developing my oral skills was desperation. It was wanting to learn, like, Guthrie Gardens Erotic Cakes when that came out.
Yes, I remember.
I was like, cool, there's no tab book for it, so I'll transcribe the whole thing. To be honest, just wanting to get more and more into fusion because I've been listening to it for a very long time, but I couldn't find any great resources on it. So I transcribed and transcribed and transcribed.
You don't transcribe those solos from that Guthrie album, the guitar solos?
Yeah, that was kind of how I built a reputation as a transcriber. I transcribed every track on the album, all of the solos and everything. Even I did Bumble plus Fretless solo, and a word got around that I had them and I was trading them for like bootlegs and things. And then eventually I put them up on scribed.com because I saw someone on the Petrucci forum made a thread about me and said what an asshole I am because I've transcribed the Guthrie album and I won't just give it all away. And it's like, I'm not trying to sell it, like I'm not a scumbag, they're not mine to sell. But they took me 100 hours, you know. If you could give me maybe a bootleg concert, a bootleg clip of Dream Theater or whatever, you know, let's do a trade kind of thing. But yeah, when people started calling me an asshole, I just posted them all unscribed, and they got like 50,000 views or something like that, and I was quite surprised because nobody knew who I was really, and that was pretty incredible. That made me think, wow, I can probably do more of this. I can probably transcribe more stuff that people are interested in. And before I knew it, people just started emailing me and said, you know, I hear you're good at transcribing. I'd really like to learn this solo. Do you think you'd be able to do it? And if so, how much would it cost? And that's never stopped for like 9 years now.
I think I contacted you once for transcribing a solo, but I don't remember which one it was. It was a long time ago.
Did I message you back?
Yes, you messaged me back.
Good. Because now I say that because now I'm in this position where I'm looking at my emails right now, and I've got 77 emails that I'm dealing with, and most of those are all transcriptions that people want me to take on.
But you always have that facility for transcribing complex lines, those steady lines, or you have to work it out slowly at first.
I kind of picked it up quite quickly, but that was purely because my reading was very good. And I'm always, on my YouTube channel, I do this series called Reading 101, and the idea behind that is we literally just take a transcription, something that people aren't familiar with, and we just look at the notation of the tab, and we learn to read it based on the notation and the tab. And the reason for that is it's that skill of developing the ability to see something and know what that's going to sound like. That's all reading is. When we read music, it's just seeing something and being able to make that sound like something. Well, transcription is that skill, but in reverse. It's hearing something and then knowing what it's going to look like written down. Exactly. So I don't speak Chinese at all. Not in the slightest, right? But I mean, again, we talk about imitation. If I met somebody that spoke Mandarin and they said a phrase to me, I could copy what they said. Actually, I probably couldn't because I know there's a lot of nuance in speaking Mandarin. I could vocally try and copy what they say, but there's no way I'd be able to write it down because I have no comprehension of what that language is. I've never read it, I've never written it at all, no concept. And music's very much the same, so because I put a lot of time into reading, transcribing became quite easy. And again, being very methodical helped. You can transcribe something simple, cool. I can transcribe something very difficult, I just do it very slowly.
Yes, I remember once that you put a video, you were having a discussion where about not slowing down the speed of the music for transcribing.
Yeah, that was Yannick Bastala said you should never slow music down when you transcribe it.
I remember.
It's just not possible sometimes, you know. It's easy for Yannick to say that. He's a bass player.
Exactly. And
try and transcribe Sean Lane without slowing it down.
Do you upload a video transcribing Sean Lane's or Alan Holdsworth licks? I don't remember.
I've got some videos of me doing some holds up and Sean Lane stuff, and yeah, you have to slow it down. You just have to.
Yeah, you have to do it. We were talking about transcription books. Do you think that using those books are do you think that using transcription books to learn intricate musical lines is bad for the development of a musician in areas like technique, composition, and oral development? What advice would you give to those that want to improve their oral skills to your level?
See, when I read these questions, I thought that was a brilliant question. That's a really good question. And it's a difficult one to answer because there are benefits to both. You know, I could obviously make the argument that you should never ever learn from books because every time you look at a book, you're not developing the ear, you're developing the eyes.
Your sight reading abilities.
Yeah. But I still spend a fortune every month on books because that, generally speaking, if there's something I want to learn, if I can buy a transcription of it or transcribe it, I'm usually going to go for the book. I want to get the transcription of it. And the reason for that is time. If it's going to take me an hour, 2 hours to transcribe it, my time is worth money. And if it's cheaper for me if I can spend that time earning money to pay for the transcription, then that makes more sense to me. But when we look at something like learning jazz vocabulary, there's a couple of great books on that as a subject. The David Baker books, the Les Wise How to Play Bebop book, the Ted Green books, Ted Green's single note soloing books. They're some of my favourite books. And when you look at them, they're just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lines. And I think stuff like that is good. It's very, very good because it boils music down to like its core key ingredients. I feel that using something like that is a good primer to help with your transcription because, again, part of transcribing jazz in particular is being able to hear these tonalities that aren't what you hear in standard boring pop music. And if you're completely unfamiliar with that, if you've only ever listened to the Beatles, and then I say, cool, here's a Miles Davis solo, or a John Coltrane solo, or whatever, it's going to sound a little weird to you, especially if I take it down the modern route and go, here's a Kurt Rosenwinkel solo, you know, it's different, it's very out there. So using a book like that can be a time-effective way of helping to develop the ear, exposing yourself to these new sounds. So I definitely wouldn't bitch on the idea of transcription books, because if they save you some time, great. Just don't think you can do it all with the books. Read some books, but then devote an hour to doing some transcribing. I was extreme. When I was in uni, I was transcribing for at least 3 hours a day, at least, and often 6 hours a day. And now I do it for a living. I'm transcribing for 6 to 8 hours a day minimum. You have to love it. I love transcribing. So a lot of my students, they'll put in like 20 minutes and they're like, oh, I'm done. Like, you need to do more. There's no point going to the gym for 10 minutes. You know, you've got to, if you want to strengthen the muscles, you've got to work them.
Because I think musicians must have a minimum ability for transcribing. For example, quarter notes, 8 notes. That is that will make the basic structure of a song. But when it comes to the more improvisational side of music, for instance, in track music that you use irregular rhythms, you must have more developed audio skills.
Something else that I throw in for anyone that's looking to improve that side of their ear is transcription and working stuff out are also two different things. I talked about this like responding to Scott Henderson, because Scott Henderson talks about, I transcribe all the time, but I never write any of it down. And it's like, well, that's not transcription. That's working stuff out. And I'm not bitching about that. That's good. You should do that. That's what you really want to do. You want to listen to things and work out how to play them. Transcription is trans meaning to change from one form to another, and scribe meaning to write. So it's to take something from one form and to write it down. So transcription is the actual art of writing the music out. But that's not the most important thing that you're wanting to develop, is it? What you're really wanting to develop is your ear. And you don't need to write stuff out to do that. So yeah, just go out and do it. Just keep doing it, and every day you will get better at it. There's no denying, you just get better and better at it.
When you make transcription, do you use isolated tracks, or do you transcribe with all the instruments sounding at once?
Yes, has to be everything. Because isolated. When you have isolated tracks, you need context. You need to hear something in the context of the pulse. Occasionally, ultimately, it's very rare that you have access to them. If I'm transcribing a Sean Lane bootleg or whatever, all I've got is a YouTube video to work from. If I'm doing, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example of something I've done recently. Nothing springs to mind. Well, Andy James, I guess, is a good example, because I did his EP just recently for him. When I do something like that, I do have access to the stems if I really, really need them. But generally speaking, it's kind of like Yannick's argument of you should never slow music down. While I don't believe you should never slow music down, you should never slow music down to the point where it changes how you hear it. Slow it down 20%, 30%. When you're starting to slow down like 75%, you're going to end up playing tricks on yourself. And I feel it's probably the same with hearing music in context. You want to always, where possible, hear the bigger picture, what the music sounds like as a whole, rather than picking on that tiny little detail. Because to be fair, when you hear something in isolation, you might end up hearing things that you wouldn't hear in the mix, like noise on guitar, open strings when they change positions and shit. And then you start going, well, should I really write that note in there? It sounds, this bend, he's definitely a little bit more sharp than I'd expect him to be. Should I put that in there? That kind of stuff. No, I wouldn't recommend that.
I encountered with that same situation when I was hearing jamming tracks. Do you have the chance to hear those tracks?
Which tracks?
From Jam It. Isolated tracks from Dream Theater, Rush, Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I have seen a couple of that type of thing.
And when you hear it, you hear John Petrucci making some mistakes or changing the sounds in the mix, and you saying, "Wow, if that stuff happens to professionals, what happens to us?"
For me, like isolated tracks like that, they have a great use. But that great use isn't for transcribing, it's for production, it's for learning. Like when you listen to Van Halen 2, like my favourite Van Halen album, and you listen to the isolated guitar tracks on that, it's very interesting to hear what Eddie's tone really sounds like on its own. Because when it's in the mix with the drums and the bass, the vocals there,
it sounds different.
You hear it in context, Whereas when it's not, when it's isolated, you go, wow, there's really no bass in that, is there? It's really cut all that bass out. There's a lot of mid in that. So that's useful, but that's a total aside.
Yes. You have managed to lead a sustainable life through music, performing tasks as a teacher, transcriber, journalist, among other tasks. What is your advice for those who are struggling with the difficulties of a day job and want to make a transition that allows them to work with music? It's a complex question.
Yeah. So don't have a family. Be willing to be poor. I talked about my analytical mind. I'm not Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory, but I did well in school. You know, I top of my class in just about everything. Like I was good in school. I could have done anything I wanted to do. Could have gone into science or high level maths or whatever. But I made the decision that I would rather go into music and be poor. I'd rather die a poor man, knowing I'd done what I wanted to do. Well, I was young when I made that decision, you know. Now, if I was still in a position where I had like a day job, decisions like that are much harder to make because you have more life experience. So, essentially, I'm saying that if you've got a day job, sometimes one of the best things about having a day job is that you can stay extremely passionate about music. My music career has become really solid in the last maybe 4 years. But those first 5 years were hard, especially as I was living in London. Really hard because rent is very expensive in London. And there were months where I'd scrape by, like just make enough rent to live. And on days like that, you'd spend all day working, playing guitar and doing stuff like that. You'd look at the guitar at the end of the day and you just hate it. You wouldn't want to pick it up and play it. So one of the benefits of having a day job is that passion never dies. So yeah, but if you are really hell-bent on that idea of transitioning into working in music, I guess you need to have a real solid plan. Being a good player is not enough. I'm not a great, I can play, but I'm not like a world-class player, especially compared to the people that I hang around with. Like, all of my friends are much better players than me.
But you are a great player. You play great.
I appreciate that. I do okay, but I guess that's the sign of someone being good in music. It's like, it doesn't matter how good I get, I'm still looking at over here at this thing, I want to do that, and these guys are so good, and I admire this and that. So you're always focusing on what's better and to make yourself better. But yeah, having a solid plan. I know so many friends who are great players, but they have to have day jobs because they can't make a living out of music. For me, I diversified. I couldn't make a living. Maybe I could make a living just teaching. But just playing, just making YouTube videos, just writing books, just doing DVDs, it would all be a struggle. It's the fact that I've got all of those things going at the same time. It's a little bit of income from all of them adds up to a decent income. So yeah, the advice is diversify. Don't make any rash decisions. Don't just quit your job and think that you're going to do well in music, because it's getting harder and harder to make a living in this music. And if I didn't have the transcribing thing, the unique selling point to what I do, I would have been out of business a long time ago. I don't know what I would have done.
It's getting really difficult for musicians nowadays to make a living in music, even for those guitar players that we look up to, like John Petrucci, the Metallica guys, wherever. The other day I was watching a video where Tom Quelly and Martin Miller were discussing about that. I think the title of the video is Career Motivation and Struggle, and he talks about that. Tom, I think he makes computer, or I don't know how to say it in English.
Then I don't know how to respond.
And he talks about passive incomes. He has a passive income and all that stuff.
Yeah, Tom's a great example. If you look at Tom's a good person to live your life by. He is not just a great player and a great teacher, he's a great businessman. You look at everything he's done, and he's smart about everything that he's achieved. And there are guys, and I'm not going to name any names, that just aren't smart like that. They don't play the smart game. They go, oh, you know what, I'm going to make another CD with my band, and this one will be the big one. This is what will make it, or I'm going to upload videos of me playing over jam tracks and stuff.
And doesn't sound good.
It's not that doesn't work, it's just that there's so much risk involved, and the chance of it being successful is tiny. I know I'm being really negative here, but actually on the positive side, while it's much more difficult to make a living in terms of playing with bands and things like that, even as a teacher it's becoming harder because the internet is great. It means that I can reach the entire world, but so can everybody else in the world. So my competition has also grown. But there are great places out there that provide good work opportunities. Jam Track Central is a great place to mention because they give a very, very good revenue split with everyone. But again, what's to say that it's not too late for that company? They've got a lot of people working for them. They don't need
any more people.
They don't need a whole bunch more writers or teachers. And I'm in a similar position with Fundamental Changes. Joseph over at Fundamental Changes is one of the best and most generous and intelligent businessmen I've ever met. He's a lovely guy, and he's created careers for 10 or 15 people, like actual solid careers where people have been able to buy houses, and that's awesome. So I guess what I'm saying is, be more of a businessman rather than just thinking, everything's going to be alright, because usually things don't end up alright. Not in music anyway.
This year has almost come to an end, and we cannot finish this conversation without asking you about your plans for 2018. There is any project that you can tell us about? There is any future plan to start playing with a band and play your music? Maybe?
Okay, so yeah, I can reveal that I've just finished all of my country books. I've done 4 country books and a compilation book. And they want me to write more books, but not on country music. So we're moving over into slide guitar because I play a lot of slide. I've got slides kicking around here. So I'm doing a series of books on like Delta Blues, and then I'll be doing like Derek Truck style slide. That will probably take up a good chunk of the year doing that. In all honesty, that's all that's like the main plans, is to get those things done. Just keep teaching. I want my YouTube channel to keep growing. I want my Patreon to keep growing, because that's an amazing thing to be involved in. But the reason for all of these things is it comes down to the last thing: band and playing your music. I live in Scotland now, and since being up here, I have met a great bunch of people, a great talented bunch of musicians, and the talk of playing music does keep coming up. I've got Mike, who's often in the Guitar Souls videos. He's an incredible singer. And his brother, who is came back 2021 on YouTube. I never say that, I just say Kieran. Mike's brother came back 2021. He's incredibly popular on YouTube now, but he's a very talented singer, very talented guitar player, very talented writer. So I've had those guys over and we've written some music, and we'll see what happens. But the point is, you would have got this from the previous question. Playing in a band for me is a vanity project. You go out and do it because you love it, not because you want to make money doing it. Yeah, so I have to take care of business first. I have to make sure that money's coming in, and then fingers crossed I'll be able to go back to doing more music. Because I like music. Making, recording, writing, that's the fun side of things. So there's my answer there. Or get fit. Spend 5 days a week in the gym and eat healthy, live till I'm at least 35.
That were all great answers, and I want to thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
And
thank you for doing a good thing for the community. Like, you're doing something again, which is harkens back to what I mentioned previously, about being passionate about teaching. You are trying to make a difference, you're trying to help people and influence people, and generally that's a good thing for not just the community but for yourself as well, because people, they get to know you as a good guy. That's good. So thank you for helping the community out.
I was always interested in talking about you about transcribing, because me personally, I like to make transcriptions sometimes, but I don't do it that easy as you do it, and you have a great playing tool.
I have to do it every day, man. Transcribe every day.
Yes, I try to do it every day, but sometimes can be really hard.
Yeah. Finding time is very difficult. I found it a lot easier because I was at university when I got serious about it, so I had a lot more time. If I had to learn to transcribe now, it would be hard. This is why day jobs aren't necessarily a bad thing.
For instance, I work writing content for a university online, and that job took me a lot of time of playing guitar, And sometimes when I finish work and I wanted to play the guitar, I am exhausted and I don't have the energy to put in the instrument. And I ask you that question about making a living as a musician. For those people who read the interview, can have a brief insight from someone that had your experience.
Yeah. Well, always happy to help.
Well, thanks for the interview, Levi. Can you say a quick hello for here, the people in South America, for GUITARLANdia? A quick hello.
You say it's Guitarland?
GUITARLANdia.
GUITARLANdia. Okay. Hey everybody in GUITARLANdia. Thank you so much for taking an interest in what I do. Thank you so much for taking an interest in music. Keep doing it, keep being passionate about music. Share that passion with the people you love, and let's keep this industry alive.
Thanks for everything, Levi.
No worries, man. Catch up soon.
We wanna, in the future, if we have more questions, we would like to talk with you again.
Yeah, sure. Just let me know.
All right. I contact you through Facebook.
Okay, man.
Sorry for my English.
It's fine. You did fine.
Thanks for everything.
Sorry for speaking too fast.
No, I understand perfectly, but when I have to speak a little bit more slowly.
You're having to translate, yeah. Okay, cool.
Bye.
Have a good evening, and catch up soon. Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.